Hi, this is Carl from Web Courses Bangkok, and this is the Beginner's Web Design Photoshop Design section. So what we're going to be doing is creating web page design in Photoshop. So let's get started. So let's take a look at what we're going to be making. This is the design that we're going to make, and like all websites, they generally start life in Photoshop. Now I'm just going to zoom in a little bit, and we'll be able to look at this a little bit more clearly. So you can see here we've got just a little bit of a logo at the top, some nice simple text. Everything's in the middle, so it's not too difficult. We've got a navigation bar here, and that's got a little square at the back just to say that we're on this page. Then we've got a very simple banner here, and the banner is going to contain just a little bit of text just on the top of it, and then below that we've got the title and then a bit of Lorem Ipsum text. Now this has already been prepared for you, and you'll find that in your folder. So it's just showing some of the websites that we make. Lastly, we've got the footer, and then all around here you can see a nice shadow, giving it a nice professional feel. Now before we go any further, I want us to all have the same screen. So just do File and New, and then click OK. The size doesn't matter right now, we're just using this as an example to actually get the screen right. So first of all we need to show the ruler. Now we can do it the slow way, which is View, Show, and then you've got ruler on here, which is just here. Or you can do Control and R, and if you're on a Mac, Command and R. Once you've got this, I want you to just right click inside and do pixels to make sure it says something like 0, 100, 200. Right, from there I want us to have the same sort of workspace. To do that, go to Window, Arrange, and then just make sure that Cascade isn't turned on. Then go to Workspace Essentials, and that will make sure it's got all the same sort of view. Now when you get Essentials, adjustments will be like this. To remove it, just double click and then double click on Layers. And the layers is the most important part, because that's where you see all the different parts of your design. Great. Now I'm actually going to just close this down. Right, for this one we're going to be doing File and New again, like that, and the size is 1024 by 1200 pixels. And we don't need to worry about the name just yet, because we'll do that later. So when you're ready, just click OK. Great, so we're ready to start now. Now the last thing that I want to be able to see is my grid. So just go to View, Show, and then Grid. Now with the grid, that will help us organize everything and get things in line. Something that I really want you to do when you're doing Photoshop is make sure that everything's in line. Okay, it just makes it look a lot more professional. Next thing we want to do then is choose a color. So I'm going to go down to the bottom left hand corner and click on the one on the top left, because that's the foreground. Click, and then you'll see the color picker. The color we want today, I'm actually going to write in myself, which is DD, 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 and it's just a light gray. Alright, now you can actually move it yourself, okay, but I found it easier just to put in DD, DD, DD. Great, so when you're ready, click OK. Now what we're going to be doing is putting the gray in the background, so it means that we need the paint bucket tool. The paint bucket tool is on the left hand side here, but you might find that it's hiding under the gradient tool. So just click and hold and select the paint bucket tool. So we're ready now. We've got the foreground set, we've got our canvas ready. Just click and there it is. Very simple. Right, so now that we've got our background the right color, I want to practice something that's very, very useful. So just press Control and plus and you'll zoom in, Control and minus, zoom out. And if you right click with the zoom tool selected, you can actually see the original size. To select the zoom tool, press Z, and then right click, actual pixels. And you'll know that this is exactly how it will turn out when you're looking at it on the browser. Right, the next thing we need to do, if we just reference our design, is this white box here. Alright, now I'm lucky because we already know the size, so I'm going to show you a quick tip on how to make a box an exact size. Let's zoom out so I can see what I'm doing. Right, now I'm going to click on here which is the rectangle tool, and you might find that it's hiding under the custom tool or even the rounded rectangle tool. So just click and you'll be able to see the other options. So let go. Now this box is going to be white. If you want to change anything to do with the tool that you're using, select it from the top here, which is the properties bar. So click on color, then move to the top left hand corner. Now you'll see what I'm doing here is I'm not just clicking that because that isn't pure white. I click and hold and then move my mouse off the color picker to the top left, and now I've got exact white, which is FF, FF, FF. Great, click OK, and now we're ready to draw. Now I'm just going to do this very, very roughly, like this, because I know how big it wants to be. There we go. Now something that's happened here is because of me changing this before, I've already got my shadow. So I just need to turn that off. You probably won't have that. Right, now the size that we want to do this is 800 width by 1000 height. Alright, so the way I do that is I'm going to use a very useful tool, which is Control and T for transform. If you're interested, it's hiding under the edit menu, free transform path, and it shows you the shortcut just there. Now that I've got that, on the properties bar again, remember how I said that if you've selected a tool and you want to change the settings, look on the properties bar at the top. Right, the width I want is 800 px, and the height I want is 1000 px. And now, if I press enter, perfect. All I have to do now is just put it in the right place. So I'm just going to drag it down. I'm going to leave 2 squares from the top. I'm just going to move it over. There we go. And it should snap to the middle of the page. Alright. So now the next thing we want to do is finish what we're doing. Whenever you move anything, whenever you type anything, you have to do Control and Enter to finish what you're doing. Now that we've got that, I want to add a nice shadow in the background like we saw earlier. So just right click on shape 1. Now don't right click on the color and don't right click on the shape. Right click at just where the text is. Right click and then go to blending options. When you're on blending options, you'll see the layer style panel. The layer style panel allows you to change things. Now if this is your first time doing this, don't assume that just by clicking on the checkbox here will turn it on. Alright, you must have the word selected because that will allow you to change things. Now I just need to make a quick adjustment, so I'm just going to click OK, and I need to turn on the effects layer. If you ever have that problem, make sure you have the eye selected on here. So I'm going to do that again. Right click, blending options, and then click on the word drop shadow. It's the same if I want to add a stroke. I click on the actual stroke word, not just the checkbox. Let me just turn that off. Back to drop shadow, and what we want is 30% opacity. We want the distance to be 0, so it looks like we're looking right onto the page. The spread is 0, but the size is 30. Now actually, when we start doing the code for this, that 30 is going to be something we put into the CSS. Great, so now we're ready. Click OK, and you can already see I've got this nice shadow here, but I can't see it very well. I need to hide that grid for a while. To do that, Control and H, and I can see what I'm doing a lot better. That doesn't look too bad. Right, so the next thing we need to do is put in the logo and the 2 titles. But before I do that, I want to see my grid again, so I'll do Control and H. Okay, and now I've got it. Right, so I can afford to zoom in a little bit now, just to see it better. Control and plus. Right, so the first thing we need to do is we're going to place the logo. Alright, so just go to File and Place, and then you're going to go to the files that we gave you at the beginning of the course. So I'm going to go inside Website Images, and I'm looking for musicbox.png. So click on Place, and there it is. Okay, so to move it, all I have to do is click around there. Don't click directly in the middle because that changes something else. Just click in this inside. Now something I'm going to do is I'm just going to put this right in the middle here. Now, one thing I'm not sure of is if this is the middle. So first of all, I'm going to do Control and Enter, finish what I'm doing. Then I'm going to do Control and H to hide my actual grid. And I'm going to introduce something to you now called a guideline. So just click on Shape 1. Alright, so make sure that that layer is selected. Then from the left hand side of your ruler, click and drag, so hold down and then drag a line and you'll see it appear. And what it will do is it will snap into the middle. So I now know that this turquoise line here is exactly the middle. And I can see that my box is not quite there. So if I click on my box, click on the Move tool, which is on the top left hand corner, and then I can move this directly in the middle. Now, did you see how that snapped? That's going to be something that's very, very useful, and it allows you to make things look a lot more professional. Right, next thing we need to do is the text. Alright, so I'm going to put my grid back on. Now I can see that that isn't directly 2 spaces from the top, so I want to make that perfect. So do that. And trust me, that is the difference between a professional and non-professional design. If things look a bit out of place, it doesn't look very nice. Right, now we're going to do some text. Okay, so click on text, and the color that we want is black. The size we want is 18 pixels, and the font is Lucida Sans. Now everybody has that, and it's a web safe font, so it's something that we can use with confidence. Alright, now the color is black here. That's the most important. Even though the color down here is white, the properties of this tool is black, so that's the one you believe. Right, so I'm just going to click on here, and I'm going to type in capitals Online Portfolio. Great. Now remember, to finish what I'm doing, Control and Enter. If you don't do that and just keep pressing Enter, it's equivalent of just making a new line. Right, next one is going to press V for the Move tool, or you can use the toolbar, and I'm just going to move this into place here. And again, I'm going to get it about 2 squares below. And because I've got that nice guideline, it goes snap right in the middle. Next thing for us is our name. So I'm just going to click on T again, and click Carl Heaton, and there it is. Oh, just make that capital C. Now if I want to change anything in the text, I must highlight it. Okay, so I'm going to highlight my text, and then I'm going to go to size 72 pixels, and you can see that's gone nice and big. Now to move this, I can do one of 2 things. I can do Control and Enter and select the Move tool, or I just move my mouse away, and then I can see that I can now move it, and there it is, snapping right into place. And again, around about 2 squares from each other. Control and Enter. Brilliant. Now again, something I like to do is, when I'm looking at these things, I like to hide the grid just so I can see things. Alright, now it'll hide everything. So Control and H, Control and H. Now if I click on the Move tool, I can just get that into place. There we go, that looks perfect to me. Now the next stage before we move on to the navigation is grouping our layers, and this is something that's absolutely vital. If you don't do it, you can easily get lost. Now first of all, Shape 1, it needs a name. So I'm going to double click on the word, and I'm just going to call that background. Press Enter. Now if I want to do this the easy way, I'm going to hold down Shift, and then I'm going to click the top layer. So you click the first layer, you click the last layer, and all the layers in between get selected as well. Remember to hold down Shift. When you've done that, press Control and G, and it will group them nicely for you. Double click on the group and call that Header. And there we are, header is done. Next on our list is our navigation. So I'm just going to put my grid back on. Now the navigation's basically 2 lines with a bit of a highlight and then some text. So we'll do the lines first. So the line tool is just hiding underneath the rectangle tool, and that's here. Now the line we want to use is just 1 pixel, so I want you to go to the top here and just change that to 1 pixel. Alright. Now the next thing is we need to remove this style. This is something that Photoshop does that I don't really agree with, that it will remember the last style that you did and keep it. Do the drop down and then select the top left hand corner one, which means default style or no styles. Next we need the color. So click, and we're going to use jet black. Same idea as doing the white. I'm going to click, drag, and then pull down to the left. And you're looking for 0, 0, 0. When you've done that, click OK. We've got that selected now, so I'm just going to click on there, make sure I've got my line tool selected. It's at 1 pixel and it's black. Now I'm going to leave 2 spaces here, 2 of these boxes, and I'm just going to go from the side, leaving around about 1 space there. I'm going to click and drag, pull over. Now because I've got the grid there, it makes life a lot easier. And then let go. Alright, now if I just do that again, I'm going to give three of these squares down. I'm going to click and drag and move over and then let go. Alright, now if I press Control and H, there we go, there's my navigation. Okay, so I'm just going to put my grid back on. Now something I want to show you again is how to move layers. So what we actually want is this to be 2 spaces here. Now to move a layer I must have it selected first, so I'm going to select the second layer. I'm going to press V, and then I'm just going to click and pull this up, and there we go, it's perfectly in place. Now V is such a really useful one, especially with Control and Enter. You've got Control and T for transform, and you've got Control and H to hide your grid. And if you start using these shortcuts, you'll find that your designs come to life a lot sooner. Right, we've got that. Next thing we need is a bit of text. So I'm just press Control and H. Now a clever way of doing this is making sure that we've got this equal space between each of the words. And this is a little trick that only works when you've got one word. If you try and do like about us, it won't work. So we're just going to do it with simple words. So I'm going to select text, and again when I've got my text selected, I've got Lucida Sans, regular, and then 18 pixels. Right, now what we're not going to do is just click. If we just click, it means we're going to make one thing, one bit of text. We want to make a text box. So I'm going to move in one of these pixels here, sorry, one of these squares. I'm going to click and drag down like this. Alright, and then I'm going to leave a space there as well. And then let go. Now the advantage of doing this is that I can actually affect the justification. Now let's type in first. We're going to go home, and you can see that it's already doing it. So I need to turn that off. Right, a quick way of doing this is Control and A to select the text, and then I'm going to go to Window and then Paragraph, which is just down here. And you can see this is what we're going to be working with. So let me just turn that off so it goes like this, and this is probably what you're seeing. So if I just click next to Home again, inside the box, not outside, I can do About, Services, Portfolio, and lastly Contact. Now what I want is I want these to be equally spaced across the line. So again, Control and A to select all, or you can click and drag, and then select from here, Justify All, and there you go, it moves perfectly. To move this now, I'm just going to hide that. I'm going to click and drag, not inside but away, and I'm going to move that up right into the middle. Perfect. Control and Enter, and there is my navigation. The next thing I want to do is going to be in 2 stages. The first stage is I'm going to make Home white, which means I won't be able to see it. Then the next stage is I'm going to put a little box behind it to allow me to see it, like a highlight. So, highlight, click inside the text, highlight Home, and then go to the top here and select white. Once you've done that, click OK. Now, again, Control and Enter. Now here's the thing, when you make a new layer in Photoshop, it puts it on top of the last layer that you've just done. So because I've got Home and About Services, if I make a new layer now, I won't be able to see it. Allow me to show you. So I'm going to click on Rectangle tool now, and I'm going to make sure that it's black, it's got no style, and then I'm just going to click and drag across like this. Now I should be able to see Home, but I can't. And I can see why, because on the layers panel over here, shape 3 is on top of the layers. So I'm going to click and drag and just pull that down, and there's Home. So it's a good indication of how layers work. Again, Control and H just to see what it looks like. It's looking good to me. Now, next thing, very important, bit of housekeeping, is double click on shape 3. I'm going to call this highlight. Double click on shape 2 and I'm going to put bottom line. Shape 1, top line. And next, like we've done before, is adding them into a group. So to do that, hold down Shift, click on the top layer. Alternatively, you can actually hold down Control and select them individually. Alright, but essentially we want the layer selected that we want to go into the group. Control and G groups them, double click, and we're going to call this nav. And there we are, there's our nav bar. So now it's time for the banner. First thing I need to do is just do File and Place and select Girl Looking Up and then click OK. And that gives me my image. Now I need to resize it a little bit and place it. To help me do that, I'm going to do Control and H to see my grid. I'm just going to move this down and I'm just going to leave one of those boxes space there. Now what I want to do is make this a little bit longer so it matches up with my navigation. To do that, I'm going to hold down Shift. Whenever you're resizing photographs, always hold down Shift, otherwise they'll look a bit skewed. So I'm going to move that down, and there it is, perfectly into place. Control and Enter, and I'm done. The next thing I need to do is add my text. So I'm just going to click on T, and the font that we want is Lucida Sans. The size is 18, and the color, if I click at the top here, should be 346C83. That's like a dark blue color. Click OK, and then I'm going to click in the bottom left hand corner and put I love clean simple. To finish what I'm doing, Control and Enter. Again, I want to move this, so I'll press V. So I'm just going to move this into the corner here. Okay, I'm going to zoom in a little bit, and I'm going to hold down space and drag the screen over. Alright, so now I can see that it's nicely in place. The next thing I want to do is some more text. So click on T, click away from this, and you'll see that the cursor has a square around it. Click, and then put design. Now I need to edit this, so I'm going to do Control and A, make it 72 pixels, and white. Click OK, and there we go. Click on the Move command, and I'm just going to move this down like that. And you can see it's, again, perfectly aligned. It's 2 away from the bottom, 2 away from the side. It's in line with this. And actually I need to move over the I love clean simple a little bit as well. So I'm going to select that layer, and press V, and just move that. And there it is, nice in line. I'm going to zoom out, take a look. Brilliant. Right, let's group these layers now. So I'm going to click on Girl Looking Up, hold down Shift, click on Design, and Control and G. Double click on the group and call it Banner. And there we are. There's our banner. So the next thing on our list is our text. So I just want you to select the text layer and then just click anywhere just below there and just put Professional Web Design. Okay, Control and A to select it all, and I want you to make it 30 pixels, and then the color is going to be 343434. Then click OK. Brilliant. Now to finish what we're doing, Control and Enter. Now we're going to do a little bit of text. Now before we do that, I'd like you to go to your browser and go to loremipson.com. When you go there, you'll see this. Okay, you're going to see this opening page, so just move down, so go to lipsum.com here, click on Generate, and this is where we're going to get our dummy text from. You must click on Generate, don't copy it from the home page. So click on Generate, and then we're just going to select a little bit of this text, right click and copy, and then go back to our design. And now I'm going to use a little bit of help with my grid again, so Control and H, and then I'm just going to drag this over around about to the middle, okay, and I'm going to leave a bit of space for my footer, and then do Control and V. Now you'll see that the text is very, very big, so do Control and A to select all, then drop down 14 pixels. Then I'd like you to go to Window, Character, and select the line spacing here at 24 pixels. Now you can experiment with this, maybe 18 you feel is better, or 24. Personally I think 24 with 14 pixels looks really nice, it's easy to see. Great, so Control and Enter to finish what I'm doing, and now I can sort of arrange everything so it looks nice and neat. I'm going to select my professional web design layer and just make sure that it's lined up with the banner. Nice and easy. Alright, and give it two of those boxes space. Then my Lorem Ipsum text, I'm going to move that down as well, and there we go. Always in line, keep it in line because it makes your design look much more professional. Right, now if you ever want to see less of the text, you can always press T, click inside the text, and then you can actually move this up a little bit just to that line. Control and Enter, perfect. Now just do File and Place, and I want you to select websites.png. I'm just going to hide this character panel as well. Right, I'm going to click and move this, put it right to the edge, and then I'm going to hold down Shift just to resize it, just so it looks nice. And there we go. Control and Enter, Control and H, perfect. I think that looks very, very neat. And maybe I'm going to move this down in line with the text as well. So I'll use a move command, move that down, and there we are. Now we're ready for our footer. Now before we do that, we're going to first group the layers. So hold down Shift and select the layers you've just made, Control and G to group them, and then give that a name. We'll call it Body. And there we go. Next on our list then, and the last on our list, is our footer. Okay, so the footer is going to go down here. So I'm going to use my grid again, Control and H. Right, select the rectangle tool from the left hand side, okay, and then we need the color. Now, the color that we need to use is BEE08E, okay, and that's going to be a light green color. Again, feel free to use your own colors, but we're going to go with a nice standard color scheme. When you've done that, click OK, and then you're ready to select the rectangle tool from the menu bar. Right, what we're going to do is we're going to make sure we give this enough space, and we're going to move this down. Okay, so I'm going to click and move down, and I want you to give it at least 4 squares like that. Now here's a perfect example of how we need to use a transform tool, and it's why we left a little bit of extra space down here. We need to make our web design bigger. It's very rare that you get the design and the size right perfectly first time. It sort of evolves. So that's why we're going to now change the size of this layer. Now I remember that it was in the background, okay, so I'm actually going to go to header because it was one of the first things that we did. I'm going to click on the background layer, Control and T, and then I can just move this down, and there we are, right into place. Control and Enter, and there's my footer. So you can see it's very important to put things in nice layers so you can easily find them. Alright. Now if I wanted to move this background layer out of the group, I just click and drag and move it out. Okay, and I can move it in any place I want. Right, just going to close this up again, and now we're ready to carry on with our footer. Click on shape 1, and we're going to add some more text. So click on T. Okay, and then click on T, and the color is going to be from the top here, 4D711A, and it's just a dark green color. If you just click OK, and then the size is going to be 14 pixels again. I'm going to click in the middle, I'm going to put copy, right, 2011, and put my name. Control and Enter. Then V again to move it. Alright, and then give it some nice spacing just from the side there. Perfect. Right, the next thing we need to do then is our 2 social icons. and they just come from File and Place, and we'll do Twitter first. Click on Place, and there we are. I'm going to resize that, put it over there, one space away from the side, Control and Enter. And then the same for Facebook, File and Place, there's Facebook. I'm going to move that in as well, then Control and Enter. And I'm just going to nudge them a little bit closer using V. And there we go, there is our design. Control and H, zoom out, and doesn't it look beautiful? Alright, and that wasn't too hard. Now the nice thing about this as well, okay, is if you click on background and then you do File and Place, you've also got some other backgrounds here that you can play with. So if you click on BG Wood 2 and Place and then zoom right out, you can actually make that really, really big, and instantly you've got a nice new design. Control and Enter, and there we are. So there's a lot we can do with this design, and you'll be able to use it for your own websites. Thanks for watching, and now we've got our design finished, we're ready to do the HTML and the CSS. So thanks for watching. Bye!